Absolutely. Joining us right now to discuss, CNN political commentator, Democratic strategist Karen Finney, and former White House spokesperson under George W. Bush, Pete Seat. It's good to see you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Pete, let's start with what we have just learned in Lauren Fox and her great reporting. Tens of thousands of dollars paid for sex and drugs on at least 20 occasions is what the Ethics Committee found when it comes to Matt Gaetz, including paying a 17-year-old girl for sex in 2017, and the committee finding that he violated Florida state laws. He's no longer in Congress, we know this. He's also promising that he's not going away. What impact do you think this report and that, I'll call it the Matt Gaetz chapter of the Republican Party, means for the party?
Well, this report and what we're hearing is incredibly disturbing. The allegations were problematic, and now that the Ethics Committee has corroborated those allegations and concluded they were, at least in part, if not all of them, accurate, is a troubling end to this story, or at least this chapter, as you said. But I want to quickly review how we got to this point. Matt Gaetz was, while a member of Congress, a walking tornado. He burned bridges. He tried to derail well-laid plans for sport and for attention during his time in the chamber. He didn't make a lot of friends. And so while he thought he was immune to this, first denying the allegations and then abruptly resigning to try and prevent the release of the report, and then eventually saying that he, quote, had done some embarrassing behavior over time, he was not immune. He was not immune because these are serious, serious allegations that have now been proven true. And hopefully he goes away. But as we've seen in this era, Kate, folks like him only get louder and more obnoxious when something like this happens.
And Karen, Matt Gaetz was just speaking out yesterday at the same event that Donald Trump was speaking at, and spoke about his possible future plans from the stage. Let me play this.
My fellow Floridians have asked me to eye the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. Maybe special counsel to go after the insider trading for my former colleagues in Congress. It seems I may not have had enough support in the United States Senate. Maybe I'll just run for Marco Rubio's vacant seat in the United States Senate and join some of those folks.
He's getting applause. Yes, this was before the details of this report came out this morning, I will say that. Yeah. But now seeing this report, Karen, it does, look, this brings forth an important question that everyone needs to ponder, which is this type of behavior disqualifying anymore for someone in public office?
It's a really important question. Obviously, the charges against Donald Trump, for example, where he was found liable for sexual abuse, I think I got that right, but still also found guilty and a convicted felon on other completely different charges and other cases that we'll never know the answer to now. I mean, there is a question. Is there any means? Is there any, line that once you cross, you should not be eligible to run for office? Certainly, I think in this instance, it's important that this report was released because, again, I don't think Matt Gaetz was planning on going away. Maybe this will give him pause. And I think there should be a standard. And I think as a society, we need to, decide. It's one thing if you're a leader and you've made a mistake and you come back and you are remorseful and you have tried to right the wrong. It's a completely different thing where, Matt Gaetz knew what was in that report. He probably had a good sense it was coming out today. And yesterday he was full of bluster, right? So again, he knew what was in there. And so I think there does need to be this question. And I think the answer is yes, there needs to be a line past which once you've crossed it, you're not eligible to run for office and to hold the public trust. Making decisions about, our government, the finances of this country, the laws of our country. If you are someone who has broken those laws without any remorse or, restoration, you shouldn't be able to be in elected office.
Pete, also happening this morning is President Biden announcing he's commuted the death sentences for 37 people on federal death row. They'll now serve out life sentences without the possibility of parole behind bars. And in part in making the announcement, Joe Biden also made clear that this has to do in part with blocking the Trump administration before they come in. And the way that it was said is, in good conscience, I cannot stand back and let a new administration resume executions that I halted. That aspect of it. He did not say Donald Trump. It's very clear he's talking about Trump's intentions and how Donald Trump has talked about what he would like to do with federal death row. What do you think of that, Pete?
Well, the president also said that he's convinced now more than ever that the federal government should not execute criminals. And I am convinced more than ever that he is absolutely wrong. I personally have a very hard line on this particular topic. I have no sympathy for those who have committed heinous acts against their fellow humans, have committed murder, and I personally believe in capital punishment. But look at what President Biden is doing in these final months. He is on a pardon and commutation frenzy. It started with his own son, Hunter Biden, and now these 37 commutations of those on death row. This is what the American people are going to remember about Joe Biden, is these final months of him hiding, not actually being on the public stage and demonstrating any sort of leadership, but instead letting criminals off the hook. That will be a large part of Joe Biden's legacy.
Off the hook, I know you're using as a form of speech. They will stay behind bars. These are not pardons. They will stay behind bars for life sentences. I'm only saying that just to make, for point of clarification. Karen, I want to ask you, I want to jump to this really quickly. Joe Manchin, on a bit of a post-mortem kind of tour, is on his way out the door. He sat down with Manu Raju and gave a very rough review of the Democratic Party as he is now about to leave office. Let me play this for you.
I am not a Democrat in the form of what the Democratic Party has turned itself into, the national brand. Absolutely not. And they know that. Here's what I told them. I said, you ought to figure out how you lost somebody like me. The brand got so bad. The D brand has been so maligned from the standpoint of it's toxic. And the Democratic Party, the Washington Democrats, have tried to mainstream the extreme.
So it's interesting, right, Karen, because we often hear people say that it's a Republican Party that is not where the American people are now. Joe Manchin is saying it's the Democratic Party that is moving away from where the American people are now.
Yeah, so I don't agree with his full assessment, but here's what I do believe. I believe, having been at the DNC in 2005 after John Kerry lost, and we were going through a similar type of process of re-examining the brand and have we lost this question, similar questions. I think if you look at what we're fighting for in terms of building more affordable housing, keeping healthcare costs low, all of the things that, frankly, President Biden have been working on, those are issues that address working class issues, middle class issues. At the same time, I do not believe that our party has done a good job of two things. Number one, talking about what we're trying to do from the perspective of our values, which I think is where we do connect. And number two, connecting with people in a modern context. I don't think we've done a good job. And by that, I mean, whether it's podcasts, whether it's, in the digital channels where people are, where they get their news and information, and on cable and in newsprint, we have to do all of it to meet people where they are and to constantly have that conversation. I don't think we do a good job of that. I think Republicans do a much better job. So I agree, but I also think we should listen to someone like Joe Manchin, because I think we have to be open to hearing the criticism, but remember, we did lose an election, but our values and the things we're fighting for are still very much, I think, aligned with the American people. I just don't think we've done a great job connecting.
It's good to connect with you two, as always. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.